Ready? Plaquemines Parish Council, March the 12th, 2020. Meeting is now called to order at 6:41 p.m. Roll call. Machines are open. Let the record show that every council member is present. We'll move to item 3.
A proclamation declaring March 28, 2020 as Blinded Veterans Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
So we have a motion by Mr. Roussel,
Yes.
seconded by Mr. Konovich. Unanimous second? Okay, we have a unanimous second.
And before we vote on it, I'd like the secretary to read it. And we'd like to,
Key in, please.
Will we vote on it first and then I'll read it?
yeah.
No? Okay. A proclamation declaring March 28, 2020 as Blinded Veterans Day in the parish of Plaquemines. Whereas from the early beginnings, the Blinded Veterans Association members demonstrated to all veterans with visual impairments how to take their rightful place in the community, creating a world built upon equality. And whereas Blinded Veterans Association, after 75 years, still continues to advocate for veterans with combat-related accidental or age-related vision impairments to regain independence, confidence, and self-esteem through rehabilitation, training, and assisting their fellow veterans with visual impairments. And whereas we recognize that the goals and ideals of Blinded Veterans Association should be supported by citizens everywhere. And whereas the Louisiana, Mississippi affiliate of the Blinded Veterans Association is dedicated to improving blind rehabilitation services, education, and benefits for blinded veterans throughout the United States. And whereas many Americans recognize March 28th of each year as Blinded Veterans Day. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Plaquemines Parish Council, represented by its duly authorized chairman, Carlton M. LaFrance, and by concurrence of the parish president, Kirk M. Lapine, representing the Plaquemines Parish government, that it hereby declares March 28, 2020 as Blinded Veterans Day in the parish of Plaquemines.
Thank you for that. And after we vote on this, I'd like to invite First Lieutenant Joe Burns of the United States Marine Corps and his guide dog Kendrick up to receive the proclamation, and it's with great honor that I do this.
Any comments from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Mr. Lapine?
Also would like to thank Mr. Bank for his service, and we welcome you here in Plaquemines Parish.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to ask everyone to come down and take a photo with Mr. Burns.
I was watching Kim.
What'd you do to him? You should have went and stood over there. Nice looking dog.
She's breaking here yet?
Yeah.
It's hot. That's not the wrong day.
Something the matter with you.
Must be the hairs on her coffee. That's where we need to get Kirk, the dog. He can't see either. Oh, Kirk boss.
I want to thank you for your services and all our veterans and military personnel. We'll move to item 10I. 10I.
Discussion and presentation by Capital Area Finance Authority regarding programs to help qualified potential homebuyers.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, at this time, I'd like to turn the floor over to you. Go ahead and make a little presentation. We met at the Police Jury Association and had this discussion about making this presentation, and look forward to your comments.
Could you please state your name and address, please?
601 St. Ferdinand Street, Baton Rouge, Louisiana, 70802. I am the Business Development Manager for Capital Area Finance Authority. We are a local housing finance authority located in Baton Rouge, and we have a 9-parish region, so East Baton Rouge and the 8 parishes surrounding it, and we help home buyers come up with a down payment. So we know that there are a lot of potential qualified home buyers, but they just have that obstacle of having the down payment. And so we do that through lender partners. So we have over 50 lenders that can offer this program through our local housing finance authority. For us to go outside of that 9-parish region, we have to ask the local government for permission. And I've provided a map to show you that we're actually in 40 parishes currently, but I presented to Richland, West Carroll, East Carroll, Red River, and Bienville, and they're all in, so we've added those parishes since Monday. So we would just love to have Plaquemines Parish be a part of this. And what we do, there's no risk to the parish. I would come in, I would do presentations with the lenders, and I would do presentations with the realtors to educate them on the programs and to show them, what they have. If lenders are here that aren't a approved lender, I would be presenting to them to see if they want to be an approved lender and be a partner with us and offer the program. We do first-time home buyer seminars. There's a lot of education that goes into it. And as a benefit, we get fees. There are fees that originate, when you originate a loan, you get some fees that go along with that. We split those fees with the parish. And so any houses that are sold in the parish, there's the assistance that goes with that, the grant assistance, and we get a certain amount of fees for that, and that half of that would go to the parish. Any questions so far?
Yes, would you be able to give classes in Plaquemines Parish?
Absolutely. I travel all over the state. And so definitely, and a lot of our lenders, they're already here. So it would be, and also working with the realtors. That's a big part of my job, to let them know that when they have a qualified borrower that might say, hey, I got pre-approved, I'm just waiting to get my down payment, they can tell them about this program. And so that helps. And obviously, if you get somebody out of a rental situation and they're actually a home buyer, it strengthens the community, as we know, but it also, they start paying property taxes, and so that's a benefit to the parish as well.
Ms. Newberry?
Yeah, I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
How are y'all funded?
We're funded by, we're self-sustaining, and so these actual programs it's going to be a little bit higher than the market rate, and as you know, the rates are very good right now, and so it's just going to be a little bit higher, so it's a spread on the rate. So it's not a bond. A lot of times these bonds that come out, there's just a pocket of money, and then when it's done, it's done. This is sustaining, so it's never going to go away.
Is this for a certain classification of income?
It is. There are income limits, and so that's 115% of area median income when you're doing the FHA or the government loans, and then it's 80% or below. And we have one program that's doing 80% or above, up to 140 area median income.
I yield.
Any more comments from the table?
What would be the next step if we wanted to participate?
There's a cooperative endeavor agreement that you would have to sign, and it can be, we don't have an expiration date on it, and that actually says police jury. I'd have to change it, but you can look at that and look at the verbiage. You can redline it, you can, change it, but it basically, if y'all decide it, and I've never had this happen in all the parishes that we're in, say, we don't want to do this anymore, you can terminate it.
Well, I don't know if there's not any more questions. I want to thank you for coming down and making the presentation. What we will do is we will forward this sample agreement to the rest of the board and to the legal department for review. And if they decide that we have a consensus that we want to move forward with this, we'll introduce a resolution to authorize the administration to file to sign an agreement with you.
I appreciate it very much, and if you have any questions, I think on the first sheet, you can get there's a phone number, please call me if you have any other questions, but it is a great benefit to the parish and the community, and I thank you.
Especially if it brings us some revenue.
It's going to bring you some revenue, for sure. Thank
I
you.
ask the secretary to distribute that to all the members and to the administration, and we can move forward.
And just know that I'll change it from police jury to the parish council, if that's, or y'all can change it and tell me how you want it to read. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.
Thank you.
We'll move to item 2, executive session.
A, Dynamic Constructors LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 63-082, 25th Judicial District Court, Division B, Attorney Jacques Touzette, Councilmember LaFrance. B, Stewart Consulting Group, Inc. versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 60-296, 25th Judicial District Court, Division B, Attorney William Culver, Mike Gaffney, Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered, asking for a second. Seconded by Mr. Black. Any question from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We will go into executive session at 6:53 p.m.
Good, I ain't gotta go.
John's going to have to defer all them things.
Save some money.
Watch your feet.
I'm sorry, Beth. You can? I didn't hear you. I can't hear you.
It's all Trudy's fault anyway.
Right, let's defer everything on the agenda. Vote on the construction.
You said they defer and,
John's supposed to defer 9A, 1, 2, 3, and 4, but they haven't done it yet. And then C, D, E, and F.
you're gonna defer it. You might not go over here.
He better not, he'll have a lynch mob coming for him because they didn't come
Oh, yes,
to
indeed.
talk.
Yeah. They're gonna defer half of them, so we can get out this meeting soon.
Stay here till 11 o'clock if they want.
Yeah. John?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's gonna leave early, too.
Richie just texted me, he's like, I drew like Dr. Gooey on it, but it's not really a roast, it's just that he was just reading something and he looked funny. He kept moving. I couldn't get it because he kept moving, he was talking. Have you ever drawn me? No, because you guys like sit and it would be too obvious. It'd be like,
UPS is pegging this, is that? Okay, so yeah, no. Well, first of all, I didn't know there was a community called Aurora.
It's like Aurora Shopping Center in Algiers, remember? That's all Algiers. It's just the name of the shopping area. Mr. Levine. Mr. Levine.
At 7:20 PM, there was no legal or binding decision was made in executive session. We'll move to approval of the agenda.
Status report?
We have deferral on 9A1 deferred, 9A2 deferred, 3 deferred, 4 deferred, 6B deferred, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, P, Q, R, and 10E 2 and 3. 10E
Are they
2 and 3
Are they deferred?
deferred. Okay, I'll go back over it again. 9A1, 2, 3, 4, 6B. Oh, 6B is Mr. Roussel. Okay,
Legislation action and introduced form.
okay, you want to move? Scratch it, we'll go
It's
with,
gonna fall off if I don't move forward.
Chairman?
okay.
And if it fails, I'll just reintroduce it.
And that would be 6C, D, E, F, G, H, I, P, Q, R,
Can we please withdraw S?
Huh?
Can we please withdraw S?
You want to withdraw S?
S. Sierra.
Okay, withdraw S.
Thank you.
And 10.3 E 2 and 3. We'll start with item 4.
Status report by the parish president.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll give a quick update about the coronavirus and what the administration has been done. We are in a preparation mode, monitoring and preparing since last week. Yesterday afternoon, I sat down with entities through the parish to discuss our continuous plans to monitor and prepare for the COVID-19, the coronavirus. Parish entities have been in frequent communication with Louisiana Department of Health regarding the coronavirus, and we are monitoring the situation very closely. We are reviewing all data information from our state and federal partners. As of today, Louisiana Department of Health updated the public of 14 presumptive positive cases throughout Louisiana. There are no cases in Plaquemines Parish. There is a fluid and fast-changing issue. With all these changes, we are providing the public with information on all social platforms. As testing increases through the state, we will see an increase in presumption positive cases. Testing is currently giving if you have experienced traveling to parts of the world where infection rates are high, close contact with an individual who has shown symptoms of coronavirus, or showing signs of acute respiratory illness. We will have an update on the testing availability in Plaquemines Parish tomorrow, March 13th, from the Plaquemines Medical Center, which would give us the date how many tests they will receive. Our partners at the Plaquemines Medical Center are working closely with their partners to provide this service. But again, we are reiterating protocol from state and federal partners that everyone can help prevent the spread of this infectious diseases. Public health professionals recommend that you wash your hands often with soap and water. If that is not possible, use hand sanitizer. Cover your mouth and nose on your sleeve or a tissue when you sneeze or cough. Avoid close contact, touching or shaking hands with people who are sick. Avoid touching your mouth, nose, and eyes. Stay home when you are sick. We have scheduled a call tomorrow at 10 a.m. with GOSEP and Louisiana Department of Health and the parish's EOC. We will continue to update our social media platforms and website regularly in efforts to keep the citizens of Plaquemines updated. If the residents have limited to no access to internet, we will have information provided for all of them at the public libraries through the parish. We will continue to keep the council advised on our plan of action in protecting the residents of Plaquemines Parish. Also, I just want to give I was handing this this evening. There's a benefit at Adams Catfish on Tuesday, March 24th. For the missions that go to Mexico. I guess the trip is still on, Dr. Gui, as of now? As of right now, okay. But Tuesday, the 24th, at Adams Catfish from 5 to 8, there's a menu of catfish and other things that you could help, that will help this mission out. So please consider joining. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you for your report. Is there any comments from the table? Yes. Ms. Newberry? Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I have a suspension of the rules for a resolution for this coronavirus. I'd ask that you move that to that suspension, which is 10A.
Mm-hmm.
10A1.
A resolution relative to policies and precautions to aid in the prevention of the spread of the COVID-19 virus and other similar viruses and to provide for related matters. Councilmember Newberry.
We have a motion to suspend the rules by Mrs. Newberry, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Any questions from the table? Audience, machines are open.
Oh, I'm sorry. I apologize. I didn't know Barb hit it, and I hit it again.
Machines are open. Gui?
Mr. Gui, Mr. Bartholomew?
Bartholomew?
This is on the suspension.
Mr. Bartholomew?
And the measure passes 9-0.
Thank you, Ms. Newberry.
A resolution relative to the policies and precautions to aid in the prevention of the spread of the COVID-19 virus and other similar viruses and otherwise to provide for related matters.
I have a motion by Mrs. Newberry, seconded by Mr. Blank. Any questions from the table?
Yes.
In the queue.
Yes, Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you. I just want to comment, I didn't get a chance, my name to be called before Ms. Newberry came in with a resolution to the president to compliment him for making the steps to get people aware of what's going on with the administration as far as the parish is concerned. I think it is protocol. And I appreciate you taking that effort to get this done and get it out. And I hope you continue to be diligent with that and stay on top of what's going on, not only statewide, but also the national input that they have going on today. I tried to get me a mask today. I can't find them because I'm kind of skeptical about having meetings without the mask now. And the reason for that, my mother is at Wisdom, and I went to visit her, and they told me no visitors allowed. They closed, they're under siege. So that's one of the reasons why I didn't attend last night PIB meeting, because I don't know what's going on. And I don't want to get caught with my hands down or I get that virus. So I wanted to say how much I thank your efforts of keeping people informed of what's happening. Now, you can report back to Ms. Newberry if you like.
Mrs. Newberry.
Thank you, Ms. Bartholomew, and thank you, Kirk, and your staff for being on top of this. I really appreciate it. But I do have to say, if we can get some sanitizer here in the council offices and bathrooms, and maybe when we open the doors, just have a little bit more precaution, then not everybody has their own. Maybe they can't find any. If we have a whole bunch of, I don't know if y'all ordered a bunch to the parish, order a bunch of sanitizers for the buildings. Do you know? Have y'all ordered anything to prep the employees?
Yes, ma'am, Ms. Newberry. We have, again, Brenda has done a wonderful job in purchasing it. I don't mean to belabor it, but it's a backlog. And we have stuff on order. And when it comes in, we distribute it. And we are actively looking other places that we can. But it's a crazy time in the world, and we're just trying to find where we can get stuff so we can get it out to our people.
And y'all are aware of the grant that we could possibly get reimbursed for some of this that the president has?
Well, there is a threshold that again, that will be part of the conversation tomorrow. I invite any one of the council members who wants to come to the EOC at 10 a.m. for the conference call tomorrow can sit in and listen too. So.
Yeah, I think they sent that email out.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And to touch on that, thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. And let me tell you, reiterate that right now, as we speak, our senior citizens are still active. I had a conversation with David Lewis yesterday, who's in charge of our senior citizens. He had a conference call with all of his senior citizens around the city. There have been some movement. Some senior citizens in Orleans and Jefferson are closed. We continue to operate business as usual until something detects that we may have to make a change. So I want to put everybody that we are continuing that service. We are also continuing the service of the homebound meals that we continue to this day. We've taken a little bit more protocol when we deliver to a home. Make sure if the resident is sick that we have a mask or gloves. But we are continuing those services as we speak. Now, as we go forward, I can't tell you what will happen next week, but as of today, this week, we'll continue that service.
Mr. Blink?
Mr. Pleen, thank you very much for taking all those measures. Is there, beyond regular sick pay, is there any sort of safety net for if employees have to stay home, that kind of thing?
We are working with civil service to make sure that we follow the rules, that they are allowed to have that time off and be reimbursed. This is, again, a new learning curve, and we're trying to figure it out, but we'll keep you abreast on that.
And, well, say, for instance, if there's, I notice there's a lot of events being canceled, those types of things, and are there provisions in place to meet the benchmarks laid out in the parish charter to have these open public meetings while still keeping people safe? Has that been talked about?
No, that's something we have to discuss.
Okay.
Internally, yeah.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Bartholomew?
East Bank on the services, because Ms. Newberry said this office, she didn't include the East Bank, the courthouse in her statement, and the council office on the East Bank. No, I'm just saying what you said, you know. I want to be straight about everything. Everybody understand that we need to get the same services there. Matter of fact, more than anything, because we have a whole lot of people in and out of that building during the course of the day, especially when we have courts that's going on, and it's, people come from I don't know where. You don't know where they're coming from. So we definitely need to really see what we can do to protect the people there as well. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. 4A?
Yeah. People got to talk about the east side, man. Nobody want to talk for the east side.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
For A, update by charter directors. Number 1, old business.
The reports went out yesterday.
4A2, new business. Oh,
Oh, Ms. Newberry?
I don't know if it's old business or new business, but I'm assuming it's old business because my question is from Mr. Helmer. I appreciate the report that you send every council meeting. I did have some questions. You're still working on those harbors. And on this paperwork, you have that some of the renters have filed bankruptcy, and then my question is, are their boats still in that slip?
Some of them, yes.
Why is that?
That's a good question.
It's our
The-
slips?
They're in our slips, and we're finding out that they have found bankruptcy. So the biggest thing for us to do will be to transport them to the shipyard, pick them up, and put them on dry land until the bankruptcy court comes and figures out what we do with it.
All right, I'm going to ask the same question in 2 weeks to see if we've done anything about it. Thank you.
What's that?
I'm going to ask the same question in 2 weeks. I'll see if we have done anything about it.
Okay, gotcha.
Mr. Roussel?
Yes, I've had some issues with the dumping of the concrete on Barrier Road. I know I had some constituents in the audience that have made it an issue with me over the last couple of years. And I've sent many work requests in to have that cleaned up and removed. And come to find out that we are directing the contractor to dump back there. And I know you must know about it because I called in, and our engineering department evidently guided the trucks and told them to go back there. I would ask that if we're going to use the rock, or I mean the broken concrete now, to not put any more on Barrier Road, because all of this time I've been under the impression that we were moving in the direction of removing it. It's turned into a dump site. We even put up signs. No one ever told me that we were using it as a designated dump site for concrete. The Walker Road area has more than adequate place to move it to. It's closer to where we're going to bring it to the job site if we are going to use it. So please do not direct any more to Barrier Road.
They've been designated to Walker Road, and no one would go on Barry Road anymore.
Thank you.
To the directors, do we have any plans of running a concrete crusher this year?
I'm sorry? renting the,
A concrete crusher.
that is an option we're looking into. There's also a place on Engineers Road that we may even look into.
Okay.
Okay.
At the last council meeting, I asked about the Point Celeste levies. Mr. Roussel, you told me you was going to get back to me with the report or some pictures from Don Beshel. I haven't received it.
The pictures, I'll get with Don tomorrow and try to get those pictures. But we rode that levee with FEMA, what it was, last Tuesday or so, last Wednesday. And there was some minor damage. It wasn't that bad, but we're going to look at taking care of that.
Okay, good. I would appreciate it if you would have
I'll
let me
get
know.
the
I would have
pictures.
took that ride with you. Because you know we have Venture Global coming, and within the next 3 months is going to be hurricane season. So I just want to make sure that whatever damage that we have to the levee, that we have it repaired before the before the hurricane season starts.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Ken, could you please give me an update on the Susie Bayou project? Where are we at on this project? Because I'm getting phone calls, especially from Ms. Albertine.
The project was getting close to resume, and there's a request for a change order that we are looking into, the cost reasonableness.
Uh-huh.
So at this point, the next step will be surveying of the new spoil areas in the marsh.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as we can determine if the change order is worthy, then we can proceed with the contract.
So we getting pretty close, within a couple of months,
We were hoping for April to start.
okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
can I respectfully request that you itemize some of these things so we can better answer your questions? So we can stick to the agenda, what's on the agenda?
Well, I asked about Point Celeste levy at the last meeting, and Ken Dugas is not always at a meeting. So
Absolutely.
That's, okay?
Okay?
Now, I did receive a phone call today from Mr. Warren Lawrence. You know what type of situation Mr. Warren Lawrence is in, so he wasn't able to attend this meeting. But he did ask me to ask y'all at the table that during the Mardi Gras week, he was informed that they had about 10 people that visited his community, Myrtle Grove. They looked at the culverts, they looked at the road, they looked at where the dam was going to be constructed on the pumping station. He was wondering, did y'all know anything about it?
I don't know anything about it. But again, if we had some of this information, I could probably have this information for you.
Well, he just called me to see.
Okay, well,
Okay.
apologize.
Good. All right, thank you. Mr. Roussel?
Since it's not on the agenda, we'll put it on the agenda for the next meeting on Susie Bayou, and maybe we could discuss the change order and why the need for a change order.
Okay, any more questions from the table? Mr.
My
Roussel?
request is that, since it's not on the agenda, that we go ahead and put it on the agenda for the next meeting, the Susie Bayou dredging project, so we can discuss the change order and the need for the change order.
Okay. Well,
Will you put that on the agenda for the next meeting?
okay, we move to item 5.
Bids and advertisements, I don't believe there are any. 6 beer and liquor licenses.
Just key in if you have them. Mr. Black?
Yeah, Belcher's Government Complex Festival Grounds, 5/15 to 5/17, Plaquemines Heritage and Seafood Fest.
And I have one. Grand Bayou Fishing Rodeo, Grand Bayou Ray. It's a church fundraiser on May the 18th and the 19th. That's all we have. We'll move to the next item.
We need a vote.
Oh, we have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
Building permits, construction permits.
We'll take item 1, 2, and 4 in globo.
1, Targa Resources, application number 2020-133, dated February 18, 2020. Emergency evacuation operation at the existing Venice gas system plant to allow for the safe and unimpeded water supply to fire suppression water intake structure at the existing facility, as well as another adjoining facility, 1565 Tidewater Road, off past Tante Feen. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Councilmember Kognovich. Number 2, Moam Pipeline LLC, application number 2020-159, dated February 27, 2020. Proposed 3 anomaly repairs at 4 sites along existing 14-inch Moam Pipeline, Black Bay. Councilmember Bartholomew. Number 4, Houston Engineering Operating LP, application number 2019-888, dated December 30, 2019. Dredge and install pile clusters, drill the LL&E well number 1, and install wellhead protector, Lake Washington Field. Councilmember Blink.
We have a motion by Mr. Blink, seconded by Mr. Bartholomew. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-4 and 2 abstentions. We'll take item 3.
Kevin D. Gardner, application number 2020-177, dated March 2, 2020. Install a 2-slip 35-foot by 62-foot boathouse dock and walkway, 280 Pie Street, lot number 21, Belle Chase. Councilmember Roussel.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel, seconded by Mrs. Newberry. Mr. Roussel. Yawn.
Yes, this is, as it says, 2 boat slips. I don't know if Mr. Gardner's in the audience, but if not, he's got all the core approvals and all of the other permits needed, so he's waiting on us. Yes, they're on the Intercoastal Waterway on 208 Pie Street, 280 Pie Street, and it's on the Intercoastal Waterway, and as you know, in that area, the property owners own to the middle of the canal. So we can't put a toll road up, but we can utilize the waterfront. And this gentleman is choosing to put some boat slips there. Excuse me? My neighbors? Yeah. Oh, well, thank you. Yeah, he has great neighbors. Offered is found.
Okay. Is there any questions from the table? From the audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We'll take item B, C, D, E, F, G, and H in globo.
B, Shady Oaks Trailer Park, Frank Daigle Trailer Park Renewal, Shady Oaks Lane, Belle Chase, Louisiana. Councilmember Blank. C, LZ Properties Trailer Park Renewal, Sooner Lane, Venice, Louisiana. Councilmember Kognovich. D, Salcombe Shray Trailer Park, Salcombe Shray Trailer Park Renewal, Perry Lane, Buras, Louisiana. Councilmember Kognovich. E, Falcon Crest Trailer Park Number 1, Gary Falcon Trailer Park Renewal, Falcon Loop, Empire, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink. Falcon Crest Trailer Park Number 2, Gary Falcon Trailer Park Renewal, Falcon Crest Lane, Triumph, Louisiana. Councilmember Kognovich. Danos Reynolds LLC, Anthony Danos Trailer Park Renewal, RP Lane, Triumph, Louisiana. Councilmember Kognovich. And H, C&H Mobile Home Park LLC, Carol Turner Trailer Park Renewal, 26287 Highway 23, Port Sulphur, Louisiana. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We'll take item I by itself.
Empire Fireworks, Charles LeNormand Fireworks Stand Renewal, 32381B, Highway 23, Empire, Louisiana. Councilmember Blink.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. We'll take item J.
Cruisers RV Park, riding height, conditional approval for 33 additional spaces, Logan Lane, Belle Chase. Councilmember Blank.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank, seconded by Mrs.
Newberry.
Newberry. Mr. Mr. Blank. All right. Mr. Blank, I see there's 33 extra additional spaces. How many do they have, the original spaces?
I believe it's 30.
It's 30. So the total would be 63 altogether.
But there may be 33.
Kean, please.
I'm not completely positive at this point. Yeah, Mr. Height, would you mind?
I'm Mrs. Height, Donna Height, 191 Pleasant Ridge Drive. We had 24 to begin with, and this is an additional.
Thank you, John.
$57 total.
Yes, sir.
Any more questions from the table?
Has it been approved by permitting?
Yes, sir.
Everything is straight? Okay. That's the only question I have.
Mr. Eppley, when I went to the permit office, they had told us in the permit office that they wasn't issuing any more permits for trailers and stuff. Could you explain that to us?
This is not a permit, it's a conditional use. So it gives them conditional use to keep moving forward with their construction that they need to do at that particular site.
Okay.
They would have to come back for the final permit.
Okay. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
8, introduction of ordinances and resolutions.
Key in if you have some. Mrs. Newberry?
An ordinance to amend the 2020 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Recreation Department, Day Advance Summer Recreation Program Division, otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Konovich?
An ordinance to amend and as amended readopt Section 6.5 of Article 1 of Chapter 6, Boats, Marinas, Marine Vessels, and Terminals of Plaquemines Code of Ordinances, otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend and readopt Article 3, Section 6-62 of the Plaquemines Parish Code of Ordinances regarding docking in the Venice Boat Harbor, to rescind, annul, and set aside Ordinance 10-121, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Mr. Black?
An ordinance to declare certain parish property as surplus and to initiate the process for disposition thereof and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. That's all.
I have several. A resolution concerning approval of partial settlement of the following litigation as to defendant Freeport McMoran. An ordinance to amend the 2020 operating expenditure budget, waterwork and sewage fund, waterwork and sewage operation department, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. An ordinance to amend the 2020 operating expenditure budget, general fund, engineering and public work department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. An ordinance to amend section 12, amendment and petition of the ordinance number 142, the comprehensive zoning ordinance, to authorize the Plaquemines Parish Council to establish rules, regulations, procedures, and requirements for the insurance of temporary permits for the placement and operation of RV parks, RV sites, playgrounds, and other temporary housing units or facilities in any zone district and temporarily suspend any and all map change, rezone petition required related thereto, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. Yes.
If there's no other business from the other council members, I'd like to revisit the issue with regard to the settlement that we talked about with the Stewart Consulting Group. I have additional information I think y'all should know, and I would ask for a sponsoring member tonight. The reason why Mr. Burris asked that this be introduced tonight and vote in 2 weeks is that, and Mr. Culver can explain more if you need more information, but part of the settlement was that this be introduced and voted on before the trial date, and the trial date is on the 31st of this month. So we would be cutting it awful close, but that was part of the reasons for the settlement. So I think you need to know that. Also, I know you had some concerns about where the money's coming from, but it appears Mr. Burris has already worked with finance to determine funds from the general fund that would be available, and also noted that even though that would be appropriated, there would be an appropriation, say in 2 weeks, that would not be expensed until September 1st. So that September 1st date you talked about would be accurate, and we would be still trying to get that FEMA reimbursement in that time frame. But I think it's vital that we have an introduction tonight and have that vote before the trial date comes.
You got the introduction?
No.
I have it. Can you read it? Ask Ms. Barb to read it. She's got it.
An introduction.
We'll go back to introductions.
An ordinance to amend the 2020 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Legal Judgments Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Item 5.
9A5, an ordinance authorizing the parish president to do all things necessary to acquire a drainage servitude at no cost to Plaquemines Parish government relative to property at the Belle Chase Mobile Home Park, Cedar Grove, Louisiana, and otherwise provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Roussel?
At this time, I offer the substitute that was distributed to each one of you a few minutes ago. What this does, it's the highlighted areas are subject to the terms and conditions as set forth in the right-of-way entry agreement and the acknowledgement of the servitude which has been changed from the original, and the documents show that the original is being replaced by the new one to correct the language or to change the language that the mobile home operator is offering underneath this situation under the agreement.
Mr. Gouy?
Not me.
Mrs. Newberry?
Yes, I don't know if the board knows, but this project's already been done. So my question is, why didn't this come to the board before the project even started? Anybody have an answer?
You on?
I was texting Mr. Burris on these other matters. Is this the ordinance adopting the Junker? Okay. The issue was, I believe, we were trying to get the drainage situation straight over there. So it was a time was of the essence situation. The main thing that was important was to get the right of entry. And you're correct, Councilman Newberry, that the work has already been done pursuant to that right of entry. The only issue was now to accept the servitude for so that third parties are on notice. So this is really just housekeeping to make sure that we've gone to that next step. But you're correct, the work has been done, and now all we're doing is accepting that servitude for drainage ditch purposes, for drainage only.
She got a key in. Go ahead.
The problem I have with housekeeping is that this was something that ditch was there for years. I don't know why it was a priority on the administration's list. And the reason why I'm making my statement is because the parish was there for 2 weeks digging ditches when we have other areas in the parish that are more important. I have a lot of issues in Jezebel area. Septic systems are backing up because we're not digging ditches, and we're going to go dig a servitude that's been there for years. So, I mean, an administration needs to answer to this, because to me this was unacceptable. And not only it was 2 weeks worth of labor, it was also 11 loads of rocks. And that figure may be off a little bit, I'm not sure. So that was a cost to the parish. So the board needs to know what's going on behind our backs. So I just want to make that statement.
Don't touch your button again.
Thankfully, we have a very talented engineer here that can maybe expand on that project. But the issue is that the full servitude wasn't worked on, just that front part that needed to be straightened out, essentially.
Key in, Ms. Newberry. Key in, please.
So while we're on that subject, I have to agree with Ms. Newberry here. The ditch was relocated because it was supposed to accommodate the next door property owner to be able to put a water line in to make the trailer park legal. So has the water line been put in?
Not to my knowledge.
So is the administration going to hold the owner to the original agreement to put the water line in? So, you know, and the reason I ask this is because it seems that we are not treating all of the trailer park owners the same. We have an item on the agenda that I'll discuss these illegal trailer parks when we get to them, where we have other people that have bent over backwards and spent a lot of money, like the one we just approved earlier, to do it right, with a lot of grief, and the others are not doing it. So, I mean, she's on point. And to answer your question, this has been in the works for years. Years. Anyway, I yield.
Mr. Blank?
Yes, sir. To the administration, there's a lot of drainage requests in District 8, both in Jezebel and in the down the road portion. And some of those I was hoping could have been handled before High River. I was wondering, is there going to be a list that the council members can see where maybe we know where our drainage projects are in the queue, to where when that river goes down, the work has taken place and we know who's first, second, third, to where when the constituents come to us and ask, we can give them a little bit of insight? Is there like a working document like that? Or is it just as needed? Or
We're working to get to that point, Mr. Blink. We will. We'll try to keep you abreast as much as we can.
Certainly. I mean, that would be a huge, huge help, and I think the level of transparency would be would be appreciated.
Any more comments from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
(9A6), an ordinance approving a plan of re-subdivision of the property of Numa C. Hero and Son, Dr. Daniel Jr. and Judy B. Marshall and Smale Property Development Ltd. LLC in Plaquemines Parish, Louisiana, as shown on the map of re-subdivision of lots 111, 112, and 113 into lots 111A, 112A, 113A, and 113B, Square G, concession front, third subdivision, by dating Marquez and Associates LLC, certified by Cody A. DeMarco, PLS, dated June 17, 2019. the ordinance having fulfilled all the requirements of the subdivision and re-subdivision ordinance of the Parish of Plaquemines without cost of Plaquemines Parish government or the Parish of Plaquemines, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Gui, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Dr. Gui.
This is a,
Key in, please. No, you're not keyed in yet. You got it.
Technology. This is a piece of property that is adjacent to Russell Drive on the base at the end of Omega Street, which is behind the subdivision behind the Blue Angel, which you all know where it's located. And there was a request to re-subdivide in order to make 4 lots out of 3. Went through the process, through permits, and everyone approved. So I'm offering it now for approval.
Is there any question from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
9B, an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvements plan waterline replacement Highway 39 project and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew.
We can't hear you, Mr. John.
Eliminate the 5 to 4. The blank, I mean, the number they had 500,000, 400.
We have a motion by Mr. Bartholomew,
I'll second for the purposes of discussion.
seconded by Mr. Roussel for discussion. Mr. Bartholomew.
Yeah, well, we'd like to come to vote because it's going to fall off anyway. So I need to come back and reintroduce this thing if nobody's going to vote for it.
Let me just say this.
Go ahead.
I introduced it, when you weren't there.
Right.
Since then, the administration is telling me that that money has already been spent or allocated in the operations of the ST contract. So we need to,
Yeah, we need to find
get
out.
to the first base here where we're standing.
Right. Okay.
That's the reason I did for discussion. Administration?
Yes, that's correct. Taking that money out of that fund would be detrimental to the operations of Inframark as far as repairing waterline breaks, lift stations, motors and lift stations, fire hydrants that get hit by vehicles. I mean, that money is there for a reason, and it gets used every year for repairs around the parish. If we take $400,000 out of that fund, somebody runs over a hydrant, we don't have money to buy a hydrant, we got one less hydrant in the parish. It would be detrimental. And I sent an email to all the council members a few weeks ago about this.
Mr. Bartholomew?
How much money is in that budget?
I don't know how much is in it today.
All right, but we haven't appropriated that money to the company yet. That money was never appropriated to them for that use.
It
the
doesn't
money's
get it.
sitting there for repairs, right?
The money is there for repairs.
All right,
yes,
the
sir.
water line on East Bank need to have major repair on that, need to be done. Man lost his home because we didn't have enough pressure to put out a fire. Then that's the reason, because of that water line on the upper end is in bad shape, and we already had engineering work done a couple of years, about 2-3 years ago, to get this thing done.
I understand.
And now we have that, so why we can't just get this repair done, just like the other repairs that is being asked for when it happens? So this is already in place. It's already happened. We need to correct that.
I would ask you to find money somewhere else.
No, y'all want to find it, fine. But I'm asking for them to give us this money, and we'll just go ahead on and vote it yes or no. Because I mean, this is a problem. We can't continue to justify one area and not justify the other projects which is needed. And anytime you're going to have people where you can't hook up 2 fire trucks to provide protection and water service to fight fire, you can only use one. So that's significant, very significant to me. And that's endangerment of people's homes. So if it's there, I think we need to use it for that purpose. Now, if there's other commitment of that money has already been committed, been designed for something else, that's something different. But that money have never been committed yet. It's still there. And they still have more than that money in that budget. Way more than that. And I don't think that is half of that money. You know, and I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to say what the need is. Now, and if the council so decides, fine. If they so not to fund, so be it. You know, and I'm just asking to get something done. And if nobody have any objections, I'd like to call for the question. If nobody have any comments.
You don't have a second.
Oh, no, it's the
You
Roussel
don't have a
second.
second for discussion.
Go ahead.
Okay, hold on. I have Ms. Newberry up next.
How big is that water line? I mean, can you kind of give me some insight? Is that the one you've been talking about all year long? Yeah. So you want to, will we have a 4-inch line down there? You want to move to an 8-inch line? I mean, are you talking about asbestos? Well, this East Bank's pretty big, so I like
Well, it's not going that far. That's not even going to the ferry. That's not even touching that. That's not even going to the ferry yet. The design has already been designed. The engineers did all the work already on that, telling us where we're going for that particular project. They got 2 or 3 different stages of that project.
Is this for a fire hydrant?
No, this is for a water line.
So it needs to replace, and why is that?
I'm sorry?
Why does it need to be replaced? Is you talking about the asbestos?
No.
Okay. I'm asking, I just like
What?
an answer.
Ms. Newberry,
I'm just
we
asking.
went over this stuff.
Look,
All right.
we talk about
The
a lot of
problem is the
water lines
water.
in this parish, and I just want clarity, that's all I'm
Well,
asking.
well, you have that information. I gave you that. The question again is, well, wait. It's not like you didn't have this. Everybody at the table have it. Now, the problem is the water line has decayed up in the area. Every time we apply the pressure to it, it blows. Anytime you put over 50 pounds of pressure, even some areas when you do more, it just blows out. So we need to change that whole area up there so in case something happened like this man lost his house, at least we have the opportunity to hook more than one fire truck to the system for protection. And it's not like we're trying to start something that hasn't been required or requested. It has been. And there is some money available to do that. And if it didn't have any money, I understand that quite well.
Ms. Newberry? Mr. Roussel?
Yes, Mr. Eppley, can you define the problem that Mr. Bartholomew was just talking about? How much and how far does the line need to be replaced? What size line? And to follow up on this appropriation, if you look at the expenditures that ST is utilizing this $1 million for, there are projects for engineering firms, repairs. ST makes the decision on how much of this $1 million a year that we set aside for is spent and what projects are done?
Infomark would.
That's what I meant.
Would
Infomark,
submit
I'm
the requisitions, and they would be approved by me. I'm not aware of any engineering that was taken out of that fund.
Well, I can point out several of them here, you know, from the project transaction report, and I don't want to name the individual contract engineering firms, but it says professional services, like for the engineering firm. So to get to Mr. Bartholomew's point, we need to identify the problem, identify a potential cost, and try to address it. And when I look through these invoices, you know, I guess that Infomark is calling the shots on what needs to be repaired and when it needs to repair. And the question I have, I guess, is did they ever tell you that the line that he's talking about that keeps blowing out needs to be repaired?
There is a project coming within the next month that will address the area of the line on the East Bank in English Turn that keeps blowing out. The project's already been worked on. We have a grant for that part of the project. There's going to be about 1,000 feet of water line that's going to be replaced in English Turn, which is the problem area on the East Bank that I'm aware of right now.
So does that solve Mr. Bartholomew's problem?
Engineering work has been done, the proposal has been written, the costs have been developed on that project. It has been done. We paid for the engineer's work and everything. Everything had been completed, the cost and everything else.
So is this the same project that Mr. Bartholomew is talking about?
No, sir.
So you're addressing something that's more serious than what he's addressing?
We have a project that's coming up that's going to address 1,000 feet of water line in the English Turn area. That money is already, that's grant money that's already been identified. There's other areas on the East Bank that have been engineered, and water lines can be replaced if funding is available. But the spot that Infomark identified as the problem area is the one that we're going to work on here shortly.
All the thing I'm going to add to say that, and I'm finished with it, is in the Infomark requested that we get this company come in and do the engineering firm to come in and do the analysis of this particular department, East Bank water line. It was divided into 3 different phases. One is the northern end, which is from the ferry going north. The other was the tower, which would be further down. And then the third was the asbestos water line. That's how it was broken down, and the cost was prepared by the engineering firm as a consultant to give us the actual cost of these projects.
So are any of the projects that he just mentioned one of the projects that you're getting ready to do?
The project that we're getting ready to do is in part of that project that he's speaking of, yes.
It's in part of it.
Well,
and there's the problem that we had the original grant of $70,000 when we got first started trying to get it done, and then the council would support additional $30,000, which gave us the $100,000, and that wouldn't cover the whole water line area, the whole problem area. So now, if you want to look at the engineering design, I think Mr. Epple and them have that. They should have a copy of that.
So what
I don't know specific the information. I have the amount of money it costs, but the design of it has been completed as well.
So do you have a construction estimate of what we're trying to accomplish today?
No, sir.
It will be more than that to finish that area, I can tell you that. So now, if this council want to withdraw this, I'll bring it back in as an introduction today. And then if any question that is needed by this board, I suggest we get in touch with
Let me just say this.
Mr. Epley, and he can find out all the design that has been done by this firm for the engineering work.
Let me just say this. I'm trying to bring some common ground here.
Yeah, I don't have a problem
What
with that.
we can do and what we can't do, and if we can take a piece of it and do a piece of it, fine. You're doing a piece of it for $100,000?
Somewhere around there. Mr. Dugas can elaborate on this if you'd like.
I mean, John, my point is
I
that,
understand. I got you.
we're just going around in circles here.
No, but I'm just saying that I don't like to argue the belay the point either, because if the majority of the council don't want to, then I'll introduce it over again in my name. That's why I just keep trying to get it done.
No, but the point is, you can introduce it in your name and still not accomplish anything.
I understand that.
Mr. Dugas?
Yes, sir. The area from Stonehaven to Scarsdale Ferry was estimated probably 5 years ago, and it was in the neighborhood of $700,000 to $800,000. In that area, we found a stretch that was the worst location that Infomark provided, that they had clamps every 25 feet, it seems. So we've taken that section out, working with Infomark, we identified that. It was designed from Stonehaven to Scarsdale. We worked with the consultant to pull out that section and make a smaller package, which we will take and put out for quotes and inspect, because that question came up at the last council meeting. We will be the resident inspector on that project, and we will do that portion. Now, there are 2 other locations below the ferry that have cast iron lines that are in need of replacement. So that is the main reason.
So, y'all have any recommendation, if you're saying this money's already committed, do you have any recommendations of what next to do? Are you getting some more grants, or, I mean, this all started when we went to the water line back there off of Main Street that went on to undeveloped property, and that's how this really got started. I mean, if you could have taken that $145,000 and put it to that line, that would have been halfway there, I would think. But y'all decided to put it where y'all put it, off of Main Street. So I guess in an effort to try to help solve this problem, do y'all have a game plan for his problem?
We will apply for that grant again and probably get that same grant again next year.
You finished, Mr. Russo?
I guess I am.
Mr. Tholome, you?
Yeah, I've called for the question. If Michelle still second it, if not,
I'll
I'll withdraw it.
Pass.
I beg your pardon?
I'll second it, but I don't know if you're going to make any progress with it. That's what
No, I'm saying it doesn't matter, because I'll just go down and withdraw and reintroduce it. If there's nothing going to happen here today
No,
anyway,
but you want to vote today, and if it gets shot down, what you're going to do?
reintroduce it before the meeting is over, for next week, next council meeting.
Well,
Yeah, I can do that. If it fails, can I reintroduce the measure today?
yeah, I'll withdraw it, and you can reintroduce it.
Whatever you want to do, fine.
But I think that you need to get a solution to it, so we're not here.
Well, the solution is the fact that it's already designed. Now, if they came up with a solution to advise me what they can do to get this done and accomplished, I'm all ears. I'm ready to move forward. But nothing has been done. We've been sitting on this, and I don't like to belay the point. So I'll withdraw it at this time, and I won't reintroduce it because it's going to fall off anyway.
All right, so I withdraw it, and you want to revert back to introductions?
Yes. Like to revert back to introduction, please?
Item number 5, introductions.
Have an ordinance to amend the 5-year capital improvement plan, water line replacement Highway 39 project, and otherwise to provide respect thereto. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We also would like to go back to item 7A, construction permits. Mr. Blank?
Oh, Lord.
I'm trying to key you in. Yeah.
Wait.
Okay, now you have it.
Got it. I'd like to make a motion to ratify the approval of item 7A4 on the agenda, and I'm doing this because we approved this in Globo, and it should have been handled individually as a conditional. It should have been handled individually as a conditional.
Houston Energy Operating LP, application number 2019-888 dated December 30, 2019. Dredge, install pile clusters, drill the LL&E well number 1, and install wellhead protector. Lake Washington Field, Councilmember Blank.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank.
Motion to reconsider.
Seconded by Dr. Gouy. Mr. Blank.
Sure. As read, this is to drill behind Port Sulphur and to do a little bit of dredging in the area associated with that work. I didn't tease this out earlier. My apologies for that. It's a procedural issue.
Okay. And it,
Right.
yeah. So we have a motion by Mr. Blank, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Dr. Gouy for reconsideration. Question has been called for. And the measure passes 7-4 and 2 abstention.
No, you got off.
Oh, yeah, I'd like to offer as read.
We have a motion by Mr. Blank, seconded by Dr. Gui. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 7-4, 2 abstention.
Mm-hmm. Nine J. A resolution authorizing the parish president or his designee to do all things necessary and proper to settle and compromise the case of Dynamic Constructors, LLC versus Plaquemines Parish Government, 63-082, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich, seconded by Mr. Blank. Mr. Konovich. Is there any question from the table? From the audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
K, a resolution urging and requesting the assistance of the Louisiana Legislative Delegation to seek relief through a change in legislation regarding severance tax exemptions and their detrimental impact on parish government and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Roussel.
Yes. This is
Key in, please. Go ahead.
This is a result of attending the Louisiana Police Jury Association convention in concert with the other 63 parishes of the state, trying to get some legislative relief on the exemption of severance tax for oil and gas production from horizontally drilled wells. What they did was they passed a 100% severance tax exemption for oil if the price was established by Department of Revenue at $80.48 and a peak of $105. And what this does is ask them to come down some so we can perhaps get some revenue because the price of oil hadn't been that high for a while. And that's what this does. It's a simple request of the legislative delegation to seek relief for those issues.
Any question from the table? Audience? Machines is open. And the message passes 6-4, 2 abstention, 1 not voting.
L, a resolution urging the Police Jury Association of Louisiana and officials of the state of Louisiana to study, evaluate, and revise the law of the state as regards to statutory unfunded mandates imposed upon parish governing authorities and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel, seconded by Mr. Konovich. Mr. Roussel.
Yes.
Go ahead.
This is also legislation seeking relief for unfunded mandates that's put on by the state of Louisiana for the local governments. We are constantly being told that we have to pay certain mandates by the state, and we're asking that they look at accepting responsibility for the state agencies that they are obligated to fund. And the limits are, for instance, judges, district attorneys, sheriffs, clerks of court, parish jails, for which the sheriff is keeper and the coroners. If the state would pick up these costs, then we would not have to come out of our general fund for them. This is a standing request that the legislature is asked by the local governments. Sometimes we think that they just don't listen, but since we have a new legislative body with very new members, and many of them, at least we might get a hearing on the bill.
Dr. Gui?
Didn't.
Okay. Any questions from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
M, a resolution urging the Police Jury Association of Louisiana and officials of the state of Louisiana to study, evaluate, and revise the law of this state as regards statutorily unfunded mandates imposed upon parish governing authorities and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Roussel. Seconded by Mr. Albro.
And at this time, I'd like to offer the substitute that I am distributing, and it is the exact same resolution. However, the preamble was transposed from an earlier one, so we're just changing the preamble to express the intent of the resolution, and it's a resolution expressing the Plaquemines Parish Council's strenuous objection to the allocation of federal mineral revenue to federal programs unless the allocation also increases the Go Mesa revenue that is shared with the Gulf states, expressing its full support of Senate Bill 2418 and House Resolution 3814, which seeks to increase Go Mesa revenue sharing with the Gulf Coast states to a level that is more on par with the revenue sharing on onshore mineral production states, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto. On the interior states, the Mineral Lands Leasing Act of 1920 shares revenue with those entities at 50%. We would like to see our percentage go up, and we don't expect 50%, but we do expect an increase. And there is a battle going on in the Congress concerning revenues, which we would like to be part of the solution and not the problem, to increase our revenues. Whereas in 2018, 4.9% of the Gulf of Mexico offshore mineral revenues were being shared with Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, and Alabama. And, you know, it has been increased. We'd like to see it go to 50. And that's what this does, simply asks that that be considered.
Mr. Black?
I just want to comment, this is a hugely bipartisan legislation in Congress as well. So just to point that out, that it's on both sides of the aisle, in both the House and the Senate.
Mr. President? Somebody keyed in.
That's me. Is there any way we can add to remove the cap to that? Removing cap, we capped at $375 million right now in the Go Mesa funds. On the gas bill? It's not in that bill. Okay.
Mr. Russo?
You want me to go ahead? I'll go ahead. The Conservation Act right now has a cap of shelf life. The shelf leases remove $375 million cap, provide new authorized uses of the Go Mesa revenue, establish a revenue sharing. And we're caught up in a battle over the funding, and we're just trying to get our percentages increased.
Any more questions from the table? Audience? Machine is open. And the measure passes 8-4, one extension.
N, a resolution authorizing the parish president to do all things necessary and proper to settle and compromise Stewart Consulting Group, Inc. versus Plaquemines Parish Government, case number 60-296, 25th Judicial District Court, Division B, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Blank. Is there any question from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
O, an ordinance to amend the 2020 General Fund Operating Expenditure Budget, Legal Judgments Department, and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
So offered. Seconded by Dr. Gouy. Any question from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
New business. 10A2, items under suspension. A resolution concerning the Plaquemines Parish Council's opposition to Senate Bill 359, House Bill 520, and other similar proposed legislation in the 2020 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature. Councilmember LaFrance.
So offered. Yes. You got the suspension? And this is for suspension of the rules? Hmm?
That's something else. That's not my work.
This is it. Yes. We have a motion to suspend the rules, seconded by Mr. Roussel. Any question from the table? Machines are open. And the measure passes 6, 1 nay, 2 abstention. Could you read the item?
A resolution concerning the Plaquemines Parish Council's opposition to Senate Bill 359, House Bill 520, and other similar proposed legislation in the 2020 regular session of the Louisiana Legislature.
So offered. Seconded by Mr. Roussel. At this time, I'll yield the floor to Mr. Taylor.
Thank you, Mr. LaFrance. Brandon Taylor, represent the parish and the council, and as you know, in several suits on coastal zone litigation. Just to keep this very brief, these particular proposed bills, Senate Bill 359 and House Bill 520, seek to change the Coastal Zone Management Act. As that act currently reads, the parish, along with the parish district attorney, the Department of Natural Resources, and the Attorney General all have right to sue on violation of state permits those violators for damages in a particular area. The proposals in these two bills would seek to strip the district attorney and the parish of those rights to file suits for violations of state permits in the parish. And this is problematic twofold. Number one, as you all know, we currently have a 6-year ongoing litigation against several oil and gas companies for damages in the parish under these particular laws. We've made a lot of progress in that litigation. In fact, there is a proposed resolution for next week involving a potential settlement against one of the parties, which will be discussed at length in the next council meeting. That progress, along with other progress in the litigation itself, has been hard fought and ongoing for a long time. Secondarily, and outside of that litigation, to strip the parish of the rights to file such suits would affect future issues as well, in which the parish would have no recourse against violators of state permits inside the parish for damages in our parish. If you leave such things with the state and with the state alone, you limit very significantly the amount of damages or awards that the parish could get to repair its own property. In fact, the vast majority of the money, if left to the state to recover, would go to the state, which is not the case here in the current litigation and in future litigation if we keep the law as it currently reads. So to that addresses the content of these two particular bills and the reason for the resolution asking the council to denounce those bills. Thank you.
Is there any questions for the table? From the audience? Machines are open. Mr. Black? Okay.
Verbal abstention. You can go back to
Excuse me? No, just let's re-vote again.
I didn't see nothing.
Machines are open. Mr. Bartholomew? And the motion passes 6-4, 3 abstention.
A3, a resolution authorizing and directing the parish president or his designee to provide the community action public transport bus for use by the Croatian American Society for their Croatian American cultural and food experience and otherwise to provide with respect thereto.
We have a motion by Mr. Konovich with amendment. Seconded by Mr. Blank. Is there any question from the table?
In addition to entry a CEA, the Croatian American Society will provide PPG with a letter that states, number one, the public purpose served, two, that the use of the bus is not wholly gratuitous, and three, the parish will receive something of equal or greater value from the Croatian American Society for the use of the parish bus.
Any question from the table? Audience? Machines are open. For suspension? The measure passes 9-0. For suspension. So we have a motion by Mr. Konovich, seconded by Mr. Blank. Any question from the table? Audience? Machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0.
B, District 9 update, Councilmember Kognovich, trailer spot and trailer park enforcement.
Mr. Konovich, please key in.
Do we know who does this? Who goes out checking to see if trailer parks are permitted or?
We don't have anyone.
All right. And then one other, I called you about a sinkhole the other day. Did you get to check on that?
Where at, sir?
This next door to Plains Pipeline had a spot in the guy's yard that water's coming up.
We'll check into it. I'll get the address from you and we'll check it out tomorrow.
We sent people over there. They tested the water. The water's not chlorinated. That water's coming up from seepage from the river is what they suspect. But that's not something that a water line would have done.
That's what I wanted to make sure, because if it's been doing it for years, he said, so it's not just from the high river.
Yeah, they tested the water to see if it was chlorinated, which would have come from our system if it was chlorinated, and it was not.
Anything we could do or just let it go?
We can maybe check with the levy guy and see if there's something that we can do with that.
All right, thank you.
Item C. Oh, all right. Mr. Roussel.
Yes, on this same item, trailer spot and trailer park enforcement. You said we have no one that enforces that or checks that, correct?
We don't have a code enforcement officer.
Right. We have a legal department. What happens when the legal department gets notified of an illegal trailer park?
I'll defer to the legal department.
We've had this discussion once already, so I want to know what the legal department is going to do, because we've got constituents who are making an honest effort to comply with the rules. They're expending money, putting in infrastructure so they can follow the rules. Yet we have other individuals who are flaunting at the rules, ignoring the rules, and putting trailers in places that they don't belong. I know the legal department has been informed of it. And is there any action that's going to be taken to try to make them come into compliance or cite them for the violation?
I'll confer with Mr. Burris and get back to you on that.
The same one we've been talking about. Have you conferred with him up to this point?
No, which you're talking about the.
I don't want to name names, but I do know that I've spoken to you, and I've spoken to Mr. Burris, and I've spoken to even the councilman of the district. And I know that when I did talk to Mr. Burris, he said he was aware of it. It had been already turned in. So the people that are calling me are calling y'all first. But they still call me. and want to know why I got to comply if no one else is complying or other people are not complying. If we don't have a compliance officer and we get ready to have hundreds of trailers inundating this parish or however many it's going to be, the administration needs to get a game plan so we can try to rein this into the legal realm of what we're going to be doing. And I understand you're going to talk to Rennie. That's a good answer. However, it doesn't solve the problem. So I'll put this item on the agenda for the next meeting under my name, and we'll follow up at that point. Right?
Understood.
Thank you.
Mr. Alborough.
Dr. Ebley, do you think if we could get together next week and possibly work on that, finish that code enforcement thing that we're working on, and possibly this position could be funded if we did do some increase in fines and things, and maybe we could go ahead and get this going?
Yeah, let's get together next week.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Konovich?
Don't we pay half of the salary to the sheriff's office for this position?
I don't know the answer to that question, sir.
I thought we was paying C.J. Freeney's half his salary to go out and
C.J. Freeney's been retired for a while now.
last year he retired, but
Yes, sir.
I know we were paying half his salary.
I don't know the answer.
Mr. Black?
And Ms. Kotovich, I'm not sure if that CEA or that MOU is expired. I know I've had long conversations with the sheriff, and he's supportive of a MOU or a CEA between the parish and the sheriff's office to do the code enforcement stuff. I mean, I think we need a few people, really. Or we tried, myself and Mr. Burt, for years, tried to get this thing done, to even do a whole new judicial process to go through have the constables do a bunch of stuff, which they're sworn to do, but they don't show what they do. And then the justice of the peace hear those cases. So, I mean, hopefully somebody wants to take that and run with it, but that's hopefully answers some of your questions.
Any more comments from the table? We'll move to item C.
District 5, update Councilmember Cell. Number 1, discussion regarding noncompliance of public record request.
Yes.
Mr. Russo, please key in. Thank you.
Yes, on this item here, I had asked for information, and I did get an answer today, but I've been asking for this information for months. My question is, what does it take to get information out of the administration? Does it require a formal written public records request?
I never got a request from you, Mr. Russo. I believe you directed everything toward engineering. Had I gotten a request, we could have done something about it more quickly.
So the answer is to send them to you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for that one.
Next item.
Discussion regarding the recent mailers with the cable bills citing the franchise authority.
Yes, I've had people bring me their cable bills and have questions about the language on the cable bill and the major increases that they're getting right now, citing the authority of the Plaquemines Parish government on the bill under a franchise agreement. So I was under the impression that the franchise agreement had expired years ago and that we have no current franchise agreement in place. And so I wanted to ask the administration if that's accurate, and if it is accurate, we are collecting a franchise fee for an agreement that we don't have. And I had asked this of the Cormier administration to look into this, to try to resolve this so we can either collect the franchise fee legally or increase the franchise fee, because the question is, why can't we get anybody else in here? And my answer to them is it's all about economics. If anybody can come in here, our agreement has never been an exclusive franchise agreement. So do you know, or does the administration know where we're at with the franchise agreement?
You're correct. It is definitely expired of the 2015. When the new company took over, they applied for a state franchise, but they never were granted a state franchise. The law changed, and because Plaquemines is grandfathered in, you have the chance or the choice of voting to let them take the state franchise, which is a 5% pay back to the government. This company, the previous company, and now we have another company in here. I've spoke to them about sitting down with their attorneys on the franchise, and we're kind of back and forth on that stuff now. The previous franchise we had with the parish was 3%, and it was always a 15-year renewal when we did that franchise. Today, they're collecting 5%, which is the standard state franchise. But upon their attorneys are reviewing the questions that I put to them about the grandfathered act, that Plaquemines Parish does not fall under the statute of the State Franchise Act. So getting them to the table is the thing to authorize that. Now, if you would like to turn them over to a state franchise, that's fine. They'll be committed to that state franchise, and they will pay us the 5% as normal. But you can advertise for another company to come here at any time, and you can offer them a local franchise, or you can let them get a state franchise to come in. The competition is, the franchises that you give out are non-exclusive.
So is there a opportunity to raise some revenue? Or you
Just,
5%?
well, the 5%'s the cap between the FCC and the state. Is pretty much a 5% cap on the tax. They should be paying an annual check about every January, February, that 5%. And I can check with finance and see what the last ones were. I know that their subscriber count is drastically down. At one time in the Belle Chase area, they had over 3,000 customers. Now I think they're somewhere around 12 to 1,500 maybe. So that revenue should drop down. But I would suggest that we stay at a standard 5% rate with them. I don't think you'll see much revenue. There's a lot of competition now with fiber to the home. For example, the parks back here, where the Cypress Park where they're building, AT&T's already been in there, and they put fiber optic to the houses, so they'll have fiber optics to the home. So the competition is really strong. Now, I'm not sure why AT&T doesn't have a state franchise to provide video and everything else like the cable companies required. That's still a question that's out there.
Well, if there's a way that we can to raise some revenue off of the other carriers.
Right. That's the thing we need to look at is getting a franchise from the Bell South. That's the only two wires we have in the ground right now is Bell South and New Wave. I guess you can still call them New Wave. Sparklight is the new company. I know we have 2 wires in the ground, but you have a ton of competition now, like I said, with AT&T and the cable company competing apples and apples in product. I know we get a franchise fee from New Wave. I'm not sure we get anything from AT&T.
Well, the point I'd like to make is to let the constituents know that we do not regulate their rates.
That's correct. We do not. Rates went out of deregulation in 1996. And then it's a fair market rate or value of what they can get out of their product.
So, but my purpose is to say we do not regulate the rates. It's not our choice to raise their rates.
That is correct. It's not the government's choice to raise the cable television rates.
Thank you.
Gotcha.
Mr. Konovich?
All the things you just talked about doesn't include 7, 8, and 9, because I can't get home phone, home internet, home cable. So
What location? Eurus, that's correct. They don't. The cable company has nothing, but the telephone company has services down that way.
But to get data, there's only so many, and
that's correct.
Unless somebody gives one up, you ain't getting it.
That is correct. There is some grants that we are looking into with the USDA for rural broadband. That's a long procedure that we're looking at, and from, say, Diamond down could qualify that, and the entire East Bank would qualify 100% for that because they don't have adequate data available in their area. But it's, again, it's a grant situation that takes quite a while to go through the hoops to get that.
Did we apply for it?
We're working on the application and making sure that we are in the right grant. There's like 4 or 5 different grants, and we're working with Senator Cassidy's office on that.
Hold on. Mr. Albro.
John, as I blurted out, and I know we discussed this several meetings ago. I've had it on my agenda, but I keep on deferring it. But yeah, I mean, there's District 3. There's areas that it's not ran. So my neighborhood alone, yeah, AT&T's there, but internet only. If, as mentioned, if you don't have it already, there's not any additional for their TV service, so you're forced to go with DirecTV, and the internet is pretty bad. So
That's true, but that's based because it's not a compelled service to put in like a telephone line is a compelled service to be put in. That's just federal law that was written way back when. It didn't matter if they were in Point Celeste. They had to run them at least a telephone line for communications. That don't mean they have to run them to broadband data to where they can get 100 gigs at their house. I mean, they'd be lucky to get 5K on a dial-up.
My confusion is if there's cable all around them.
It's purely a business decision by that company.
Again, if there's anything we can do, meetings, send some emails to them.
Right. That would
Get other
be my
options,
suggestion, that the general manager is, his name is Jim Duck. I'll send you guys his contact information. He's out of Pass Christian, and he can get with you and let you know everything that there is. I'll shoot that to you guys tomorrow.
Mr. Blake?
Sure. I noticed AT&T's putting a lot of 5G antennas on telephone poles. They've installed a new tower in Port Salford. There's another one that's been permitted for Naomi. Do the grants you're pursuing for rural broadband, are they keeping up with the technology that's being installed here?
That technology plays on it, but wireless falls in a different category as competing against actual landline. It's the amount of data and service that you can receive if the area is saturated in it that it will actually help. They're installing a new tower, but 5G you're going to see locally in neighborhoods because it has to be below 20 feet.
Ones on the telephone poles, I mean.
The ones on the telephone poles, right. You're going to see that in concentrated areas, but not in a rush. It won't happen real fast.
Sure. I noticed at least 5 or 7 of them down
Right.
the road. There's a couple in Empire, there's a few other places.
They'll put them along the highway. You'll see them along the highway mostly, just because of the traveling public.
Thank you.
All right.
Item D. Oh. All right, Mr. Roussel.
So I guess to the original question, the cable company now is putting that they are charging these fees under the franchise agreement by the Plaquemines Parish government. We need to address them to say, take that off of your bill because you don't have an agreement.
They don't have an agreement, but they are required to list their franchising authority.
And so if they have no authority, why did they put it on the bill for the last 4 years?
Right. I can't answer that question. That went to the new company once.
Well, I'm going to ask the legal department to send them a letter that they have no authority under us, and let's resolve it somehow to get our name off of there unless we're going to get an agreement. Because it's misleading to the constituent when he gets the bill under an authority that he does not have. Thank you, Dr. Gouy, for reminding me.
We want their money, though. Yes. We get that 5%.
Item D.
District 8 update, Councilmember Blink.
Please key in.
Todd, a big thank you for scrambling those road crews to be out there on Monday for LA 11. We really, really appreciate that relief to those 3 really bad spots. John, I understand there's a Boat Harbors community meeting coming up. Can you talk a little bit about what's going to be on the agenda?
It's going to be a question and answer. We're going to show some of the goals and improvements that we've been making with the new lights and cleaning up the places and what it takes to operate a shipyard, what it takes to operate a marina. We'll have all that stuff laid out. We're going to have some of the ordinances printed out on big posters so folks can actually see what they are and understand them. Because right now it's just it's a big hodgepodge of a mess that no one understands the rules or the regulations, and when we change something, a lot of fireworks go off, and it's, we're not changing anything that's not in ordinance form as of right now. I mean, everything you guys or the council has approved, that's all we're doing is we working to enforce that. But the harbors are getting nice. We've been in contact with Energy. 90% of the lights are all fixed now. I know Bureau's lights up really good. Empire's, Venice is lit up pretty good. We're still working on the Empire Shipyard, which I talked to Mary Faye today, and she's going to get the repair crew out. And we're also going to put some brand new lights along the road where the electricity is. So there'll be lights shining both ways down there and into the harbor and also into the shipyard.
That's the Empire New Harbor?
No, we're talking about the shipyard right now. The new harbor, we're working with the, there's a grant available from the Public Service Commission, and they sent down some folks to look at the lights and the systems in the Empire New Harbor shipyard, that area, the Bureau's, and this is all the lights on the piers, and also Venice. So they're looking at that, and we may get all those lights replaced at zero cost.
That's really good news. I know there's a lot of lights at Empire by the New Harbor that maybe we
Yes, there's
installed that are on their own poles.
28 lights that are burnt out at the Empire New side.
The theft hasn't slowed down too much.
Right, and we also have security cameras, which we'll be talking to folks about security. We have cameras ordered for both of the Empires, and one for Bureau's, and then also one for back of Grand Bayou. They'll be putting one up over there so we can kind of keep an eye on everything.
Certainly, certainly. John, a while back, you and I visited the CEFLA West, the levy authority for the West Bank, to see how they get their floodgates onto their website, and apparently they're several years ahead of us in regard to subsidence. Their gates don't close too much, so they have to manually enter them. But we passed a resolution in this body to, or maybe an ordinance to have the status of the Empire floodgate on the website. And some folks, they're very appreciative of the Facebook updates, but
right.
Being able to be on the bow of their boat, pull their smartphone out, and see that red or green, and maybe have access to that tide gauge would really, really help people. I think they could spend more time on the reef, more time shrimping, that kind of thing, before they have to come in. It would be super helpful to the community. I understand the old equipment is on the old gate, but could possibly be moved over. How's that coming?
We could work on that, but as far as the website, we're going to launch a new website here. And when the new website's launched, it will be more dynamic to where we can have information put on that. I'm not sure if the old SCADA system will talk with the new data. So we're looking to see if it will transmit that information to where it will be on the website. So, right now what that stuff does, it transmits back to their cell phones. It gives them an update on a text. So we want to change that text so it'll go live, and have a page on the website that they can look at or program into their smartphone.
Beeper days, huh? Like the beeper days.
Right.
Scott, any word on when the asphalt ripping machine will be out to smooth over some of the humps in LA 11?
It's on order. We haven't got it in yet. We're still waiting for it to arrive.
Is there any chance for employee training before it gets here so it's ready to roll the second it comes in the door?
Well, we would have to get the machine to train on it.
Didn't know if there's videos or anything like that to have those folks kind of queued up, ready to go.
We can look into that. Yes, sir.
Great. We'd love to have that. Some of the bumps are worse than the holes, Thank you very much, y'all. We really appreciate the work y'all doing behind the scenes. That's a yield.
Item E.
District 3 update count.
Item F.
Discussion regarding the Good News Drainage Project, Councilmember Arbrough.
Item
G, District 1 update, Councilmember Bartholomew.
Mr. Bartholomew.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank the administration and Plaquemines Parish Sheriff for supporting the Family Day Parade on the East Bank, which was very successful. And also Phoenix Alumni Association is the one that sponsored this. We had over 2,000 people present, and it definitely had an impact, significant impact in the community. And nonprofit groups that were able to generate some revenues out of it to support not only the churches, but different business in the community and outside the community as well, parish-wide. Not only the East Bank people, but the West Bank as well. Second, Mr. Ken Dugas, would you please send a copy of the engineering work on the line, the water line on the East Bank, the project that was designed for repairs? Would you send any council members a copy of that work that was done by the engineering firm with the cost and everything else in it? Well, I mean, it doesn't matter. Whoever has it with the administration, would you please send each council member a copy of what's said? I guess I would ask Ms. Taylor, would you make sure that happens for me, please? Make sure every council member get a copy so there'll be no more questions about how much money is involved and what are the projects and how it's laid out. This will be the second time we're doing this, and I request that information. Thank you so much.
That's it, Mr. Bartholomew?
No, I'm just starting. Last couple of weeks ago, we had a power outage from Phoenix to Bohemia. And when that happened, the Plaquemines Parish Courthouse gates were wide open that night. I know I was there. I passed there and I looked at that. So we have to hope we can develop something that wouldn't take that and to let that happen like that, because that's not too good if the whole gate's going to be open at night. And that means somebody can sneak in there, somebody can catch somebody coming out of there. Whoever can get in that night. I know I can't. But anyway, all those gates were open. I don't know how, but they were open. But we didn't have any electricity on the East Bank, on the Lower East Bank at that point in time. And I know I was riding down the highway checking on different people, because we had some elderly people that, monitoring their condition and making sure everything is all right. And especially those who may have needed some oxygen and things of that nature. We have several people that's on oxygen care, and I want to make sure that they have all the enough supplies that they can use while they're there with a battery type oxygen supply that they're using. So all that went on very well, and everybody was well taken care of. So I do my work. I do get out there at night and make things happen whenever we have things of that nature that create a significant impact on the people, especially the elderly. The other thing is that we still have a problem with the water along the highway, but I want to commend the administration for getting with the state to start cleaning up on the upper end the highway so that water can flow and get to the drainage area along the highway. But we still have issues to get the water from there to go out to the in the septic canal, especially on the upper end, because the water, once it gets in there and it keep raining, the rain, it still builds up. So we need to dig the ditches on the upper end to make sure, the main ditches anyway, that the water does not stand on the highway. Secondly, not secondly, but the next item is concerned the levees. I have a very much concern, and I would like to get an update at the next meeting on the levees from Phoenix to Bohemia, the federal levee, which is no longer a federal levee because we didn't keep it up and we didn't repair, I'm talking about the council, didn't repair those culverts that's under the levee. And because of that fact, they kicked us out of the federal, the Corps of Engineers kicked us out of being the federal standard levee until we repair those. Conditional, no, you're out. Now, you can't collect from it until we start taking care of that project. We've been at it a while, and I don't know what's going on now. I haven't seen anything, haven't heard anything. So it's a very important problem. especially on that back levee, because those were federal levees. When we took over those levees, the parish took over those levees, they were federalized, and right now it's not. The other issue is concerning the Mississippi front levee. I had a conversation with the representative of the Corps of Engineers, and I was asking them about some of the breakage, some of the seepage, and what are they doing to fortify the areas where there's no pavement or where there's a crack in pavement. They told me that's a parish responsibility. We are receiving funds from them to maintain those levees. I said, where's the money coming from? How much we getting? So I'm trying to find out all that information because I don't know nothing about that. If anybody have that information, find out how much money we have in the kill to support those levees, I'll be appreciative of that information. Because if they're telling me that they gave us money, I'd like to know where it is. And the second thing, and there's been a long drawn-out process of mine about the levee districts. I need to know, I know what council members want to know, how much money is being given, how much money is being collected for each levee district. And the reason why is for that, because that money is mandated by legislative acts to maintain all levees. And if we've been putting this money in general fund, and we've been spending it and not maintaining the levees, we have some serious issues that need to be addressed. And that's part of the issues of why the levees are not moving like they're supposed to. So I would like to know what happened to that and how much money we get each year. In the past, to know how much money was put into the projects. Saying that, that's all I have at this point in time, and I thank everybody for their time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew, for that report. Mr. Blink?
Mr. Bartholomew, since you mentioned the power outage on the east side of the river, apparently the ferry landings were unable to operate. Is there a way to put almost like a reverse shore power cord to where the ferry landings could, the ramps could operate off of the generator power from the vessels? Is that possible within reason?
Yeah, we can certainly look into that. The ferry did operate that morning. They put the wheel on it and cranked the ramp up by hand. They're not able to do it all the time. Depends on the conditions of the river. If it's windy and the river's choppy, they only move the ramp up 6 inches or so and slide the boat in underneath the ramp when they do it manually. So depending on the conditions of the river, if it's calm, they can do that manually. If not, they have to have it hooked up to electricity with a generator. And we'll look into what we need to do to hook it in with the generator on the boat.
Thank you all very much.
Mr. Bartholomew?
We used to, the Plaquemines Parish government used to do that on the ferries. They had at point in time in the back days, they used to apply power from the boat to the ramps. They used to do that with the generator on the ferry. They used to do that a long time ago.
They still can in Belle Chase. We just
Yeah, I'm talking about the Point La Hatch ferry. They used to do that there because I'm a witness to that. I knew they did that.
Okay.
The generator they have on board can apply the power to crank that motor up to elevate that ferry, but they got to have the connectors there in place, the wire there in place. And I don't think they have the shore-to-shore wire anymore. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Bartholomew. Next item.
H, District 7 update, Councilmember LaFrance.
Yes, we still on for our meeting tomorrow at 10 o'clock.
That's 9 o'clock. You moved it to
10.
You moved it to
I know on my calendar it say 10. But I mean, they canceled the governor's lunches, so,
Oh, did they?
yes. Yeah. Mhm. So, but anyway, my office, we had finally set a meeting with Atmos gas line. But however, due to the coronavirus, they canceled. So whenever that issue is finished, I'll let all the council members know, especially that interested in attending that meeting with Atmos Gas. Thank you.
No, these guys are gone.
Number 11,
Approval of the minutes from the February 27, 2020 regular meeting.
we have a motion by Mr. Conover, seconded by Mr. Albro. Any questions from the table? Audience, machines are open. And the measure passes 9-0. Motion to adjourn? We have a motion by Mr. Albro, seconded by Mr. Blank. Machines are open.
Yeah, I got his stuff. I got it.
The measure passes 9-0.
Next week, we're going to have a pool. If anybody wants to take a chance on what time we will end the meeting, you can contribute to the pool, and the winner, who is the closest to the time, wins.
Except the chairman.
Yeah, he's exempt, because he can control the time.
So, adjournment at 9:12.